Welcome back, everyone, to round 2 of the Limitless Online series. Thanks to Potown Store for helping us put it on. It's a 1K cash tournament in prizing, going from all the top 8 placing players will be receiving a good amount of prize support, especially for a free-to-enter event. We've had 490 players entering that first round, in day 1. We've got 60 in day 2, and this is the second round. It looks like we are going to be pitting a Lucario Melmetal deck, and I'm seeing a Type Null, which I'm probably expecting is going to be a Center Scorch deck, because I believe that's one of the most popular combinations that we see. We're going to see the Quick Ball starts for Vio here, and he's going to get rid of one of those Silvally GXs, and hopefully this Quick Ball will give us some more information as to what we're coming up against.
Yeah, it'd be good to see some fire on the stream. We haven't been able to see that so far today. Of course, there's Zacian there on the bench. I'm going to have those 2 energies already connected to it, just 1 energy away from being able to deal like a huge chunk of damage. And there it is, Joe. The Center Scorch V is confirmed, going to go down onto the bench as well as that Welder. Going to be able to attach, obviously, those energy cards coming to hand and the 3 being redrawn. Only 1 attach, and some more Pokemon going down onto the bench. That Volcanion, of course, going to be critical to be able to start boosting up the rest of the Pokemon. So wouldn't be surprised to see that making an appearance in play going into that next turn.
Yeah, so it was a really good start for the Luke Metal player. They got those 2 early energy drops. You would like to start going aggressive with Brave Blade sometimes, but when you're staring down a Center Scorch, not so much. You may have to play around with your dolls a little bit more and play a slower approach here. I'm going to see the Cynthia Caitlin choosing to throw away the Tool Scrapper for a few additional cards. We do see the Stealthy Hood, as well as another Pokédoll, which can buy you more time. Zamazenta V is certainly viable here. You can use it to knock out the Volcanion and then hope that you're going to have a better time blocking out the Center Scorch VMAX. But when Welder's on the table, there's already burst attackers that can come out of anywhere. But I would like to see a split of the energies this turn when you commit your energy attachment so that you're not just getting completely wrecked by the station getting knocked out immediately. And I imagine we're going to see the end turn on the Intrepid Sword after the attachment of the metal goggles here.
Yeah, exactly. Intrepid Sword is obviously going to pull those 3 cards into the hand, and it does allow that Zacian extra bit of protection with the metal goggles as well. Like I said, you don't want that to be KO'd straight away, leaving you on the back foot. So good to see the energy split going there. Silvally going to be coming onto the bench as well. Going to be, of course, evolving up there, and going to be another energy attach onto that Center Scorch. Discarelio going to come out here as well, draw some more cards into the hand, just to allow that little bit more flexibility. Maybe going to see if there's potential for any kind of switch here, but going to be a Welder again, going to be able to attach 2 energies, potentially 1 more going down, 2 going down, and 3 cards, of course, jumping into the hand. It's going to be great to see if we can get that synergy up with the Giant Hearth as well, just allowing that sort of fire team to be able to steamroll through. So it'd be interesting to see if that stadium card's able to come into play later on.
Cherish Ball is going to fail search here. The board's full, so there's nothing you can really do. You can't use Marshadow to resetting hole when there's no stadium in play. So looks like he's just going to be content to VMAX up into that Center Scorch, protect those energies, and pass it over. You can play a slightly slower approach here. Wait until you have your boss's orders. Wait until you have all those other options to just take out the biggest threats on the opponent's side, because typically the Luke Metal player can't go aggressive either. It's kind of like a game of chicken to find the boss's orders first to be proactive at hitting the most important things. And we are going to see a more spread of energy here. I think you have to play defensive and hope that they can't just like boss things up, etc. He may be considering attaching to Zamazenta instead. That 3-card hand, not a big deal when there's already the Silvally in play. So I would like to see probably an attachment and then into Amani and just end on Intrepid Sword to grow that hand size. It looks like what we are going to be seeing here does end up attaching to the Zacian. Does draw into a Coating Metal Energy, one of the most helpful cards in this matchup to remove that weakness that you have. So not super important when Zacians can get easily knocked out by Center Scorch anyway, but you at least force a bunch of energies on the board to make potentially the Luke Metal GX attack a lot stronger. And it's best really on the Zamazenta so that you're not getting immediately sort of cleared out by Volcanions and other tech Pokemon, essentially.
Well, I mean, there's now 2 in the hand. Was able to get 1 off that Intrepid Sword, and the Metal Saucer there as well. Looking to be able to add another energy if one's in that discard pile. But that Center Scorch team, you can see it's going for the 2 VMAX now on the bench. So, of course, they're going to be quite formidable to KO if you're the sort of the steel team here, you're going to be able to want to try and pick up some KOs against some of those other Pokemon instead, and stay out of the way of any of these big fiery type attacks. One energy, of course, going down onto that opposing Center Scorch, so just making sure that you've kind of got those two powerhouses, almost like the bookends on the end of that bench there at the moment, kind of threatening down, and the type null keeping itself just up there. In the little vulnerable spot, but that's not going to take one prize card at the end of the day. If it goes down, it's not the end of the world, and it allows that free switch into the Center Scorch.
So we are seeing boss's orders. We have attachments that can be going around. So a few interesting options here. He could try and gust up the 4 energy Center Scorch VMAX and just GX into it, possibly, thanks to the Metal Saucer. He does have that coating metal energy to maybe tank a turn, and I think that's exactly what we're going to see here. The Pokédoll going to the bottom of the deck. The Stealthy Hood discards itself. It's not a card you ever wanted to draw, so it's a nice little option there. And we are just going to see that full Metal Ball GX, removing a bunch of energies. And thanks to that coating energy, you're going to be a lot safer coming into this next turn.
Yeah, you love to see that if you're the Lucario Melmetal player there. It was absolutely perfect turn, able to get the Lucario onto the bench, get those 2 energies attached, switch it up as well, and obviously remove that Pokédoll, and be able to get that GX attack off. Of course, again, you do still have to worry if potentially the Center Scorchers are able to get those energies up again. It isn't something you can kind of rest back on your laurels with. You need to make sure that you are still stopping them in the tracks and capitalizing on the advantage you've got when there aren't any energies attacked to these fire Pokemon. The Fire Crystal, of course, going to come in as well, going to help out with those energies, 3 going straight into the hand. Something like a welder here. There we go. There it is. Going to be able to attach 2 of those energies to that Pokemon in play.
Suddenly the Center Scorch has been rebuilt back up. Not going to be able to instantly knock out this Lucario Melmetal, but still putting on a lot of pressure. And looks like right now that's going to be what he's going to be content to do. I don't think there's many other actions you'd really want to do here. Just build back up that big train and start swinging with the Center Scorchers. Pretty much all you need to do. You're the one asking all the questions, and the Luke Metal really has to be the one providing those answers and making it more difficult, because you can just sit there pumping away a lot of good damage here as the Center Scorchers, once again, growing, and it can continue to do so indefinitely until it's dealt with.
Exactly. I mean, correct me if I'm wrong, but I don't think there's any way in this turn to pick up a KO against that VMAX Center Scorcher. No. So it's going to be sitting pretty, like you said, it's great. It's got Nulla energy on there, and it just allows the Center Scorch player to be able to put those energies onto possibly the Center Scorch on that bench as well, and set it up and just keep that kind of fire intimidation going. We're going to see the quick ball here, going to have a little flick through the deck, see what cards are here in play. I'm going to get another Lucario and Metal out there. And attaching that coating energy down, all hesitating, but it's going to go down onto that Zacian, giving it that 3 energy that it needs. And of course, grabbing 1 there for the Zacian with the Intrepid Sword. And the reset stamp could be quite helpful, potentially, if your opponent's able to pick up that KO, particularly on that GX, taking himself down to 3 prize cards. The reset energy will be able to obviously really disrupt your opponent's hand. But hey, it's another welder.
It's going to be a backup Center Scorch getting built up this time. You've already achieved the knockout on the Lucario Melmetal. You weren't able to just attach boss up the Zacian thanks to that coating metal energy. So you were safe from that play. So you're just going to give up those 3 prize cards. And you're probably going to come in swinging with your coating metalled Zacian here, and then just fire off the reset stamp, attach the coating to the bench Zacian, and hope that that's going to cause an issue. You can stamp as well as power plant to actually turn off the Silvally GX. You could also potentially hold this and go down to 1 prize card and try that gambit again, even later on. It's really how you want to try and play this out. Do you try and get the stamp in now while you have it, or do you try and get the maximum value? And it looks like we're going to go for maximum value play here by the looks of things. All 4 welders have been played so far, and that's a really good thing going ahead. When you are trying to stamp someone down, knowing that they have no more draw support is obviously a big thing for you that can help out.
Yeah, go big or go home. Save that research stamp for when there's only 1 prize card remaining. You can really get the benefit from it. Like you said, there's no welders there. You've got to worry about potentially being in the hand if they've all been used as well. So the hand disruption maybe isn't the thing that is needed most at this moment. Able to get that good damage off onto the Center Scorch with the Zacian. But again, you have to be careful. They're all steel type Pokemon. They don't want to take these fire type moves. And Zacian, obviously, having gone for the Brave Blade in this turn, you need to find a way to be able to switch it out so that you can use your other Zacian to be able to pick up that KO in that next turn. But Center Scorch team here just going to be doing what it does best. Just going to be trying to get those fire energies down. This time going to go down onto that Volcanion, putting itself into a position where it can come up and do what it needs to do. But that Center Scorch in play at the moment, looking to be so strong, able to pick up so much damage.
Yeah, we're going to see, thanks to the coating metal energy, of course, Center Scorch is only going to be dealing 140 thanks to all those reductions. We already have the switch in hand. Tag Call is also a really nice pickup. You could even Malolana now. He's just going to go ahead and grab both of those straight away. Actually, he's going to switch it up and look for a Guz Hallett instead for some different options. But you have some good discardables here. You have those excess Pokemon that you're not really doing anything else with. So you can reset, you can take your first 3 prize cards, and thanks to all the welders that have already been played, you're still out of range here from, you know, pretty much every attack that Center Scorch can throw out at you now. So yeah, this is looking pretty good for the Luke Metal side.
Yeah, getting that healing as well is critical. It just allows that Zacian a little bit more breathing room, doesn't have to worry about taking that second attack. And I think these coating energies really have come in absolutely clutch at this moment. Obviously, removing the weakness there of the fire typing, just stopping the Center Scorch from picking up KOs. And another way to stop picking up KOs is to KO it in return. So all those energies going to shoot into the discard along with the Center Scorch. And it does now allow for a couple of those prize cards to be pulled. We've got those metal goggles on there as well, can allow for a little bit more longevity and a research as well, just in case everything goes wrong and you just want to shake up your hand.
It looks like it's going to be the Volcanion coming up now. Looks like it's just going to try and do some like setup damage, I guess. And we're going to see the Giant Hearth come down, getting rid of Center Scorch V that you don't really need anymore. You've played so many welders that you're not going to get much more usage out of them. You're just going to have to commit to the Volk and then the Center Scorch to try and get you over the line at this point. We do see the manual attachment to the Volcanion. It will only be doing, what's that, 50 damage? Oh, sorry, 100. I don't know how much damage thanks to all the reductions, but regardless, he's jumping out the way. Still not picking up the KO on the Zamazenta, thanks to the reductions that we've got going on here. It's only doing, well, thanks to weakness, you would be doing 220 minus the 30 from the Luke Metals, so a little bit out of range here, but he's trying to pick up the Zamazenta. I'm not certain why. I don't think this is a great play, really, because if the Volk just gets knocked out, then the Center Scorch can't finish off the Zamazenta in any meaningful way here. And the Zacians have to be a bigger threat. We are actually going to see the reset stamp now alongside the power plant. He's held it for a number of turns, does have the switching option, has more goggles for the Zacians. This is looking really, really solid here. All of his attackers are basically ready to go. He can weave in a research as well to reset his hand and give himself a ton more options here. And he's just looking for a boss's orders basically to close out the game next turn. So at the moment, he has to be hand disrupted to actually lose this game at this point.
Yeah, exactly. And I think it works really well, particularly with those Zacians in the face of a fire deck, being able to provide the defensive plays that they have, like I said, with that coating energy and the goggles as well to boot. And having that boss's orders there in play just really helps out, knowing that in that next turn, you're in a great position to just solidly switch in and pick up a KO. Going to be going for the Brave Blade here into that Volcanion, just removing it from play again, putting it into the discard along with those energies. And now if you're the Center Scorch player, things are looking a little bit more limited. You've got, of course, your Center Scorch VMAX there with the 2 energies attached to it, but it's not going to be able to deal out the power that you know that it is capable of dealing without all those extra energies, and of course without the type weakness as well. And type not going to come into the fray, and actually now going to be the Silvally, but unless you're able to, like you say, Joe, disrupt the hand somehow, then it's just going to be a boss's orders and KO.
The Silvally list typically does play a couple of reset stamps because you have that draw engine to fall back on with the Silvally. So we're hoping that he can dig towards that. He was able to find a replacement stadium. Regardless, he did have the Marsh developed, so he was defending against the power plant the entire time. We are going to see the Eldegoss V here, so probably looking for Welder to push this Center Scorch into meaningful damage at this point. So you can start attacking into these Zacians. Both of them have coatings, both of them have goggles though, so I think you're staying out of range regardless.
And I mean, even if you pick up the KO against one Zacian, that's not going to be 3 prize cards. It's only going to be the 2. There's no ADP magic going on in here. And then the other Zacian can just come in and go for the boss and pick up. But that reset stamp that you were concerned about, cool. It comes into play, but it doesn't matter. Boss is here to stay. Comes right back into the hand as the Center Scorch does take center field as well. Going for GMAX, the GMAX Inferno there, going to be able to do the 180, not picking up a KO.
I think even without this boss rip, which is going to make the game a lot shorter, I think he was still in a good spot. He could have just continued to like announce attacks into the Center Scorch. There was no more boss's orders being, there was no more welders being played. So essentially they were all in on the Center Scorch, and there was already Zamazenta powered up and 2 Zacians. So it could have been a slow roll anyway, but it turns out we're just going to close this first game a little bit quicker just by having that boss's orders when you need it, even off that reset stamp. So really impressive stuff from the Luke Metal side, playing patiently, getting a lot of value from that initial Lucario Melmetal, then letting it go down and just having a lot of Zacians built up, seeing the power of those coating metal energies. You really do have a good foothold in the game when you take that sort of approach. So we'll see how the Center Scorch side wants to change things up this time around if possible.
Yeah, I was taking that first loss with the Lucario and One Metal actually turned out to be, in a way, the play, because then it allowed your Zacians to come forward. You'd allowed the One Metal that longevity to set up your Zacians with the right defensive things that they needed. Just going to be a couple of turns of hand here. Zacian's going to be coming out as the lead Pokemon on the Melmetal side of things. It's going to be interesting to see how the Centiskorch team's going to be able to build up. It did really well attaching all those energies, making good use of the Fire Crystal and the Welders, but maybe kind of needed the Giant Hearth in play a little bit earlier to make sure that it was able to pick up those solid KOs. And Pokédoll jumping straight out into the fray, leaving Zacian free on the bench to get the energy attached, go for that Intrepid Sword, and the Zamazentas, they're going to be in the hand for the next turn.
Yeah, once again, a really nice turn. Getting an energy drop is always a nice thing on this side. No energies from the sword this time, so you're not putting on the same amount of pressure, which does mean you can freely weld to the active here as the Centiskorch player. But at least you've got that doll to protect yourself. You're not getting immediately sort of swept by any bursty fire attackers with Welder. So you're pretty content on that side of things. As we're seeing the Centiskorch side, get a quick ball away, an air balloon, going to grab a Volk out of the deck. You can still turn attach. Looks like you may have some switch outs here to try and Flare Starter to get a ton more energies in play. So this means you can, start to deal with the dolls over the upcoming turns, but it does give you a little small opening to be punished by some Luke Metal GX attacks. So we actually see the search for the Heatran here. This could be an easy way for him to split his energies and still be threatening a lot of damage. So I like this approach a lot here.
Yeah, just going to be able to go and start setting up with those energies, going straight onto that Centiskorch. You can see them actually being split across as well, like you said, to kind of stop that detrimental effect of if your big Pokemon's all set up and then gets KO'd, then you're really on the back foot. Switching back to the Steel side of things, the Zacian here looking to be in a really good position. We've got the Tadpole going to be able to come and bring that Melmetal and the Guzma and Hala out into play as well, where we just flick through the deck as well, maybe see what Pokemon have been prized. Good to see all 4 metal sources are there as well. That could be really helpful, particularly if things obviously hit the discard. You can then get your metal Pokemon on the bench set up and ready, and we've got 3 coating energies there as well, so you're going to be hoping that they come into play just to protect your Zacians going forward. We saw how pivotal that was in game 1. The Guzma and Hala hesitating, do they want to go for it? But they do indeed.
Yeah, I think it's exactly that coating energy, like you mentioned, is going to be the most important thing here. You can't just allow an attached boss play with the Volk. You have to get a little bit tankier with your Zacian, get some more mileage out of it. Going to get rid of the basic energy. Obviously, you have metal sources in abundance to try and get value out of those. You can attach that coating energy to protect yourself. Could think about putting the power plant in because the hand size is relatively low from the opponent's side, and you can try and maybe catch a hand where they're only relying on Dead Change, but maybe thinking about it for longer term, thinking about the goggles as well. But no, just going to end on the Intrepid. Does find an energy. That's a really nice pickup for him. Whenever you can steal some free attachments, you always want to with this sort of deck, because you're going to want to build up probably 2 Zacians and like a Zamazenta, and sometimes even a Luke Metal. So it's a lot of things you need to try and build up. But we'll see if this doll is going to remain active at the end of this turn, or if the Zacian is going to be under fire here.
Yeah, I mean, it's interesting when you've got so many sort of good utilities in your hand with the goggles and the power plant as well to kind of just pass on it there at the risk of potentially having your hand disrupted. But it actually manages to pay off. Zacian going to come up to the front here. We've got a metal saucer there already, and we know that one has gone into the discard. So any of those steel Pokemons that go onto the bench are going to be able to get that free attachment. Like you said, it's so critical if you're able to capitalize on those opportunities. But it's going to be interesting to see how they're now going to be able to set this up going forward. Are they going to go for that kind of sort of the chunkier sort of Melmetal stance of things, or maybe try and get a nullization set up? What would be the priority for you, Joe?
It's a tough one. I think, seeing as though you've got the Zacian, you've got the Luke Metal, you probably search out the Zamazenta as well, just sort of bench one of each to have all those options available. Saucer to your next Zacian. I think your prize map is already laid out for you. Just the stuff that has energy is what you're trying to kill, essentially, and that adds up to 6 prizes, so it makes life a little bit easy for you. You'll probably rip the research at the end of this turn as well, and dig for more attachments for turn, of course, something that's lacking right now. You probably don't want to fire off the GX attack this early. That's why we saw the Saucer onto the benched Zacian here. Goggles actually going onto the benched one as well, and throwing away the Luke Metal and the other Zacians. Interesting, not wanting to put down the Luke Metal until it's time to GX attack, really. And he does pick up another coating, which is awesome as well. More goggles if he thinks they're important, but he's going to continue to hold them, take the first prize of this game, take 2 energies out of play, which is always a nice deal for you, and send it the other way. Now that you have a backup Zacian raring to go as well, and you pick up an energy attachment as well, that means that you can potentially GX into either the Heatran or the Centiskorch if they are going to build up enough energy to take a KO here. Right now, they're a little bit off because of that coating metal energy once again.
Yeah, it really is kind of the puppy brigade here going down with all the Zacians on the field. And like you said, getting rid of that Metal, a little bit odd, but then once been pulled back into the hand, so you can still go for that GX attack when it is the opportune time to use it, with the Zacians looking pretty here, being able to get their energies all set up, and that one on the bench is, of course, only 1 energy away. The Center Scorch here, going to be able to try, we need to try and get some more energies on there, possibly try and get... the Center Scorch obviously up to that 4. Going to be the switch though, and Heatran going to come up into the phrase. Energies on there. Research Stamp going to come in. That's going to be disruptive. That was a really pretty looking hand there. Boss is in play though. That's always going to be helpful. And Crobat goes down to allow more cards to come back into the hand. Going to take it back up to 6. So really good kind of utility here of making sure that all of those cards that you need to have are going to be here into the outs.
Forced to play the switch when the power plant's still in play is really rough for the Heatran. Had to do it so he could Crobat for a few more cards. But the power plant sticking right now, it's being awkward. Finally seeing that replacement stadium. Maybe now we can start seeing him work towards Welder, or actually, just dead change it all away for a fresh attempt. But we are going to see the Hearth for 2 fire energies, possibly just attach for turn and try and swing into this guy. Again, the coating metal being so vital. We actually see the boss's orders pick up to something that doesn't have a coating metal, just so you can take a tempo 2-prize knockout. Not really dealing with any energies in play. You're also resetting the Brave Blade straight away for the opponent. So this Heatran's immediately going down, which is a little bit of a worry. But you're at least keeping up in the prize race and forcing Zacians to sort of come into the firing line as quickly as possible.
Yeah, exactly. And I think there were only 3 of those energies as well in play. So the more that they go into that discard, the more vulnerable that these steel Pokemon are going to be. And I think getting the Giant Hearth in play there, just knocking away the power plant, really was critical for the Center Scorch player here, being able to activate all those abilities that are needed. It's going to be interesting now, looking from the Zacian's point of view. It can be in a position where it's going to be looking to try and pick up some of these KOs, trying to get a few more prize cards. But like you said, if the opponent is going to be able to start sort of steamrolling through the team again, you need to make sure that you've got those backups. And something like getting the Metal out into play here, you still have access to something like your GX attack. You can really sort of knock back the opposing players' teams here if you were to take out either the Heatran or the Center Scorch and just try and put all those energies straight into the discard.
I actually really dislike that energy attachment that turn from the Zacian side, because if you hold that energy, you can allow the Center Scorch to knock you out, and then you could just quick ball out a Zamazenta, Sorcerer attach, and suddenly you've got a Zamazenta in the active. And thanks to the coating on the benched Zacian, you can just Mallow Lana your way back out. He's actually drawn energy off prizes, which makes that play still open to him now, which is awesome. So I think it's by far the best play. But it's going to make it hard for the Center Scorch to deal with this Zacian and then also have boss for the next Zacian. Whereas at the moment, it's like the Center Scorch gets big enough to KO this Zacian, and you still need to either Luke Metal or Zamazenta. I think Luke Metal is probably a stronger play now that we do see Eldegoss for Welder. So next turn we'll be seeing Quick Ball, Mallow Lana into the Luke Metal, attach Sorcerer GX, but then you're still a couple Brave Blades away on the Luke Metal side. But as it is, the Center Scorch is going to be taking a huge knockout. They've got 5 energies on. There's no GX attack been played just yet from the Luke Metal side. And even with the coating, it will be enough to take this KO. Still no type null developed, so no stamp proofing developed just yet for him. That might be what we get to see going to work on here with a quick ball. Just instead going to be another Center Scorch. You can sometimes use the regular Center Scorch Vs to get rid of coating metal energies as well at times. So that's a small thing to bear in mind. But right now, this VMAX is going to take the next 2 prize cards, and it's down ready to the Luke Metal player to try and disrupt with their own GX attack from the Luke Metal side next turn.
Yeah, Center Scorch really going to be trying to push towards the end game here, picking up that KO, and then is sort of only that one Zacian here on the field. And unless you're able to get that Pokemon into play, then that one Zacian is going to be sitting kind of on its own. But that's the benefit of that quick ball. You can easily be able to attach and discard, use those metal sources. There's loads of steel energies just gone into that discard. The metal sources are now primed to be able to be capitalized upon if you want to get another steel Pokemon down onto that bench. Pokedoll's down there as well, potentially just a little bit of protection. But I think you're right here, Joe. You need to be able to get that one metal into position. Go for that GX attack here and just start putting that Center Scorch back in its place a little bit. Get rid of all of its energies, make it a little bit less of a threat for your steel type Pokemon.
Yeah, it's just grown too big right now. We are going to see the actual retreat here. So he's holding on to that Mallow Lana option for next turn. He does have the source that he could reestablish, but he's just going to hold everything here. and use that GX attack. He is vulnerable, of course. The loop metal does have weakness to fire. There's no coating metal energy attached at all. So I think it could still be in range for the bench Center Scorch to become a VMAX and take the KO here with welding and switch outs.
Yeah, possibly seeing if that sort of that fire synergy that I always like to go on about could come into effect. Obviously, Dark Hearth Welder, try and get all those energies on there. Melmetal is sitting that little bit more vulnerable. Of course, the GX attack is going to help a little bit against that, but with your fire weakness, it's something that's going to be precarious. The Zacian, however, looking very similar to how it was in game one. It's got that coating energy, it's got the goggles on, but at the minute doesn't have the utility to be able to attack. It's got to find a way to be able to get those energies back on, to be able to Brave Blade and start picking up a critical KO here. The VMAX is going to happen for that Center Scorch here on the bench, and it's just going to come down to now whether those fire energies are going to be able to be found. Disc Reload going to put 2 cards obviously into the opponent's hand here. If there's maybe some energy maneuverability here, it could look a little bit more precarious.
Yeah, I mean, he's going to need to weld 2 and attach 1 to push here to take the KO, thanks to the reductions coming in. The Disc Reload just for a couple cards. We're also going to need to see some switch outs. The Fire Crystal is going to help him on his way. He does also, he could, you know, if he's just lacking those switch outs, he could just attempt to put it on the front and try and set up a 2-hit KO, but he does have the switch. He does have the energy attachment. No welder, though, so just going to swing for 210 instead and rebuild the big train. If we see an energy draw here, ooh, so close. He was pretty close to winning there.
Yeah, just sadly no energy there. You could have obviously gone for the energy in the Melmetal. It just would have all looked, sorry, for the Saucer, would have all looked so great. But instead, going for that switch that did come out instead, going to be bringing that Polka Doll on just to protect the Pokemon a little bit longer, allow for that setup, Intrepid Sword. Oh, not going to be clicked there. We're going to go, of course, use that Saucer straight away. You don't want to not use it and capitalize on it, and able to get the Zamazenta now into hand. And Power Plant's there as well. That's going to be good to disrupt against Giant Hearth, just to kind of put yourself back into the driving seat a little bit more there. And having the research just allows you to kind of completely shake up your hand. But you've got to keep an eye on these deck levels as well.
It's a shame. So playing the boss's orders there is the safest play for sure, to just not lose. But it does mean that you've played the boss's orders and now you need to find another one, because you know, you're still not able to win the game on this turn, whereas if you had boss, you would have been able to. So now he's going to have to just try and rip that Professor's Research and make that work for him. You may as well put down the Zamazenta. There's already a heavily damaged Lucario Melmetal, which is easily a target for the opponent. He has drawn into boss's orders, so it's essentially just the case of we're actually going to see the Polka Doll come down. I'm not sure I like this too much. Makes you quite vulnerable here, I think.
Yeah. I would have definitely kept that Polka Doll out front just so Zacian doesn't fall risk, like you said, to potentially one of these fire type attacks coming in and just taking any unnecessary damage. You know, the Polka Doll doesn't mind taking big damage. It's fine. It's a doll. But having those boss's orders as well just allows you that the maneuverability in that next turn. But Melmetal's gone down. You know, things turned around very, very quickly there, Joe. Everything all went a little bit wrong.
Yeah, I mean, it was close. It's one of those things where you're trying to think about percentage points of how you can win. If you play the boss's orders to trap, to make yourself more likely to not die, makes a lot of sense. But it means that you're also really unlikely to win the following turn, like because your Intrepid Sword would have to have been exactly boss energy after playing a boss. So you're more likely going to win in like a 3-turn span, which is just giving your opponent too much time, or sorry, a 2-turn span, which is too much time. So I think I kind of like the risk rather than the hedge of just like hold the boss, hope that they don't have exactly boss's orders in hand, and then you can win in a much more easy fashion. So it's one of those strange hedges where you almost play a riskier turn to have a bigger payoff than playing like as safe as possible, but then needing like so many turns in the future to actually get into a winning position. So yeah.
Playing those percentages as well with the odds that you're going to draw something or what your opponent's going to have. That's why you are the resident TCG expert here, Joe. You can see those, whereas I'm still scrambling around trying to figure out what's going on before I can think about percentages. But interesting turn of events here. Obviously, Deden coming into the center spot there, not going to be ideal. That's never really where you ever want Deden to be. And it kind of wastes that ability, utility of putting it down onto the bench. Zacian, however, going to be in a good position. There's another Zacian on the bench as well that can obviously be set up and take advantage of any metal sources that might come into play a little bit later on. Polka Doll as well, again, just allowing that kind of protective option for you as well if you want to protect up some of your Pokemon. Intrepid Sword, not going to get any energies attached, but is going to be able to bring that quick ball. And obviously in the next turn, if you can get another energy, you can quick ball, put that other energy into the discard and utilize that Metal Saucer.
So it looks like the Crobat was digging for exactly the Center Scorch, because we already had the Welder and the energies all in hand, and we finally see the Center Scorch coming in. The Dedenne can easily retreat as well. No Malolana turn 1 for the Luke Metal side. Could have just gone safely into a Dole, but now they're leaving the Zacian in the firing line. We're going to see the retreat of the Center Scorch. And that's going to be 120 doubling up for an easy 2-prize KO. And straight away, the Center Scorch is putting a lot of pressure on. And,
it makes such a difference when that Zacian's sitting exposed without any goggles, without any of those energies as well, particularly without even the GX attack. It just makes itself so much more vulnerable. And I think it's wise the Poker Doll going up front here and leaving the other Zacian on the field where maybe you can utilize getting one of those energies on just to protect it and remove the weakness. But it looks like Lucario My Metal is going to come into the hand off the change from this quick ball. Again, that energy, I believe it was traded off with the energy, so the metal saucer can be utilized as well. And just scouring around, trying to see what Pokemon maybe have been prized.
Yep, we are going to see the Luke Metal come straight down. You can Metal Saucer straight to it. It's kind of proactive. It's only 3 energies, but you have to just be so safe and defensive against this matchup. You give away too many prizes too quickly. The Coating Metal is a really big pickup. So that's going to be super helpful for him. Not much else going on in this hand, though, so you may just be forced to Intrepid Sword if you want to. You could play the switch now, but you could, entice the opponent to build up the Center Scorch even more kind of thing.
Yeah.
We'll see how it goes here, because he definitely needs cards, because even if he does GX, he's got nothing else working for him, like, after that fact. He'd kind of just leave the Luke Metal up in the active, chilling. So I don't mind the Intrepid Sword too much here.
Yeah, me neither. And like you said, you want to kind of capitalize and use that GX when there's the sort of maximum amount of energies to dispose of at that time as well. So the Poker Doll just kind of being able to sit pretty here. The Center Scorch going to be able to try and get that other energy on there. So it's got the 4 energies attached, and on the bench as well, going to be trying to maybe get that second setup. We've seen how pivotal that can be, particularly if the GX attack does come out from that Lucario My Metal. You've got another Center Scorch kind of sitting ready to pivot in and try and pick up those damages, particularly while Coating Energies and Metal Goggles are going to be alleviated from that Zacian. Something like a Boss into it as well could easily pick up the KO against it, and that's where you can start picking away at those prize cards.
Do you see the Giant Hearth coming down for the Center Scorch player? Could easily just start getting to work on the bench Center Scorch. We saw how easy it was. Just getting 2 powered up is quite a lot. It's quite difficult to control 2 Center Scorch in a row kind of thing. They can normally bash through one, or they can GX through one and really slow you down. But if you build that second one up, it's really hard to get through that amount of hit points for a deck like this. So we're going to see the Giant Hearth also a big look through the deck by the looks of things, taking their time here to see what their best options are. You'd expect that if they had something like a Boss's Orders play, they'd just be slamming that down and picking up the Zacian straight away like they did on their second turn. If not, they can just start committing energy to the bench Center Scorch and really hedge your bets against the GX attack from the Luke Metal. Does have a quick ball here, throwing away a Silvally just to pick up another type null. So that means he's either throwing away this hand or he's got the other Silvally already in his hand. And we see another quick ball, so that tells me he's going to be drawing a few more cards here. With a Dedenne, he's going to re-roll this, look to find Boss's Orders, look to find more Welders for the bench to have another really big turn.
Yeah, I like this play here. Actually able to capitalize on Dedenne's ability here and getting all those cards into your hand just allows you that flexibility. Cherish Ball as well, going to be, I think, looking for that VMAX or Silvally as well, so that you can sort of put that down. Pokemon Communicator coming out as well. Silvally going to shoot right back down into the deck here and just sort of changing things up a little bit more. But I think you're going to really want to kind of get that Center Scorch set up into a good position. We see the VMAX there. It's going to now go down, adding obviously all of that juicy HP to the Center Scorch and just making things a little bit more difficult. The Boss's Orders does come into play, though. That was exactly the card he needs to pick up the KO, and there's no protecting that Zacian. And we know that that Coating Energy is in hand as well. Next turn could have been such a nice protective measure for the Zacian, but just one turn too late. Center Scorch able to pick up another KO. It's looking pretty dicey for this Metal now. I'm not too sure if we've lost Joe, but unfortunately I can't hear him at the moment. So until he comes back into the fray, you are going to be stuck with me, who, of course, as you know, is a video game caster. May not be able to give you the best insight, but I will still try and keep you updated on what's going on as we go. Again, from this Metal side of things, it is looking pretty vulnerable. Even if it is able to kind of get its GX attack off here, it's not going to be able to deal any sort of damage, picking up any big KOs at this situation. And as there's nothing on the bench either that can be switched in or pivoted to kind of apply a little bit more pressure, it's sitting very, very vulnerable, particularly when you're at that 6-2 prize guard disadvantage. It's just going to be kind of trying to make sure that you can think things ahead of time. Getting that power plant, though, into play is really good. You do stop your opponent from being able to use that giant hearth and obviously regaining out some energies, and is going to go for the GX attack. So you are able to put the Center Scorch back into its place a little bit, alleviate the threat. But the problem, of course, you have is if they're able to get that combination with Fire Crystal and the giant hearth back in play, it's like power plant never even existed. What was it even doing there? Giant hearth comes in, you're going to be able to then potentially try and get a welder up and attach all of those energies back into fray. But I believe we have Joe back, who can give you a little bit of analysis of what's happening. You missed the GX attack. It was too powerful for you, Joe. It just knocked you out of the stream.
A ton of energies flying off the board all at once is exactly what we needed to see there from the Luke Metal side. Just giving you some breathing room here. Zamazenta straight away with that coating as well, feeling a lot safer here. So it's that sort of rebuilding process now, especially if there are welders in hand. It's going to be quite easy to make that rebuild happen. If there's no welders, it's going to be a slower approach, and it really opens the door for the Luke Metal player here. We're going to see a big disc reload to try and work towards some energy cards and welding options here. Only one welder played so far, so you'd think they'd have some good outs. They do have the Fire Crystal, so that's always a good indicator that welder is going to start coming down here, and it's really just that reload option. See a turn attachment, no welder, so this is exactly what you want to see if you're going to have a fighting chance in this game at this point. Basically just going to try and make the Zamazentas go the distance, I think, is the option here.
Yeah, it definitely is what you need to have the comeback. And, you know, very lucky there that the kind of the trinity of the fire cards, only 2 of them came out. We didn't have that welder there to be able to do all the attachments. The Center Scorch still sitting there only on the 1. Marnie going to come up and start doing a little bit more disruption, pulling into loads of different energies here. Tool Scrapper really not going to be necessarily the most important thing at this stage. So definitely not looking too optimal at this stage. The Poké Doll, however, going to be able to, of course, tank any of those attacks, just allows you that little bit more protective nature. But having both the coating energy on those Pokemon certainly is a bit of a sigh of relief. That's something the Zacians were unfortunately not able to do, meaning they were KO'd, and the Zamazenta are going to be able to come forward to the front. So this could be potentially the saving grace that is needed to come back into this game.
I'm not really sure why you spend the doll there. You're trying to go into the Zamazenta. I guess kind of the idea is that you're giving your opponent that freebie, whereas Zamazenta is walling anyway. But if anything else is powered up, Zamazenta could start, taking damage. If there's the welder to the Silvally GX, for example, you can start getting hit immediately. And currently there's no like Malolana in the hand to try and 1v1 that Silvally too easily. So a little bit of an interesting play. I guess he is valuing those dolls for later turns, thinking that it's going to, he's still got 6 prizes to take. It's still a long game for him to actually deal much damage here. Whereas the Center Scorch player is looking to just ignore the Zamazenta, just say, you know what, you don't deal enough damage to me. I'll build the Center Scorch. I'll eventually find a boss, and I'll just go through the Luke Metal enough times, or, over a couple of attacks sometimes. Because the Zamazenta is just too much of a pain to get through with the reductions and stuff like that from the Luke Metal GX attack, the Full Metal Wall. So it could just be welding, attaching, and just not doing much else. You can attack just to get extra energies from your discard pile onto the Center Scorch as well, just as a mild accelerator option. Also going to see some comms dancing around so we can draw more from disc reload, which seems pretty solid here. But yeah, no damage coming in this turn, but he's just building this one Center Scorch as well, because there's such low pressure coming into him next turn that he can just wait until he has boss, essentially.
That's the thing. Getting rid of those Asians does just kind of allow you that little bit extra flexibility. The Center Scorch able to set up really well, and you've got the Center Scorch on the bench as well, sitting there to be able to take any of those excess energies when needed. The Metal Saucer are going to be allowing some attachment to the metal on the bench, as well as Marnie causing that little bit more disruption. We saw his opponent really trying to shake around his hand as well, trying to get the utility that he needs, and that's of course going to be shaken down, reduced from 5 to 4 cards. As the Zamazenta does its best to try and deal out a chunk of damage. 130, not too bad, but definitely not within range of an attack at this stage.
Let's see what we can build from the Center Scorch side. Do you have a boss's orders to start putting damage onto the Luke Metal? Do you start welding to the bench Center Scorch so you have both ready to sort of back-to-back? It really depends on what you're working with here. Just a 5-card hand. A lot of the fire energies have been used at this point. A few welders have already been played. So you're working with low outs. We're going to see some more comms, probably just minusing the hand again so he can try and use that Silvally to draw up a few more cards to give himself some more options again, because we actually do see the boss's orders, so that's going to be putting a good chunk into this Luke Metal. It's not quite game over just yet because of the coating metal energy and all the reductions that we're seeing from the goggles and from the full metal wall. But we are just going to see the Center Furno for 180 here. We already know that there is a Malolana in hand, so it's what you want to see if you're the Luke Metal side here. Immediate Malolana being played.
Exactly, that Mal Metal. So grateful for its trainer having that card in hand, able to heal and switching that Zamazenta up into the front. Going to be able to deal some more damage coming out from that Zamazenta, but of course the VMAX, so much HP, just not going to be enough at this stage. Going to be having to get another attack on that in order to start trying to claim out some prize cards. And again, if you're the Center Scorch here, you're looking at, you know, just trying to be able to pick up one more KO to be able to take out this game and push to that game 3 situation.
It's not as easy as it sounds, though. That Luke Metal is pretty healthy again. 2 boss's orders have already been played on your side. So it's a difficult ask, really, to get through this Luke Metal. And having to abandon ship on a heavily damaged Center Scorch does not feel good. It's not easy to rebuild. And you're still, you know, a number of attachments away on that benched Center Scorch VMAX now. Do you pay retreat out and try and leave this one open to boss's orders? We know that there is a boss's orders in hand, but it's a low hand size on the Luke Metal side. It's a likely hedge for you to try and stay alive. We are going to see that switch for that exact reason. Try and keep the big guy around. Actually, we're switching back in just so we can disc reload for more cards. Could end up still paying retreat, though.
could be all in vain. But, you know, getting those extra cards in your hand does give you a few more options as well to kind of switch things around a little bit more. But I think right here, the comeback coming back from this Mel Metal and Zamazenta has been quite astounding, and the coating energy really coming in clutches. I think the card in the deck that really has been pivotal to this match, making sure that that fire weakness has been taken away. It just stops the Center Scorch that is so normally able to pick up KOs against these Pokemon, just then have to take damage in return. And like you said, the cards are being used at the moment. We're going through those bosses, going through those welders. It's not allowing the Center Scorch the same kind of flexibility it had previously. So it does have to be really careful about which Pokemon to preserve and when, because if all those energies hit the discard, then it's going to be a little bit tricky to come back from.
Yeah, having to pay retreat. I was a little bit surprised that he switched back into the big one, to be honest. I would have preferred to have seen him do this to Dene the turn before, but straight away there's the boss's orders.
Oh, there we go.
3 attacks to get through it, but we're finally there. A bunch more energies flying off the board. You're a lot safer now with your Luke Metal, and you know there's a ton of energies in the bin for the Center Scorch side. You're more than one welder away and an attach away, and you know if they're welding, they're not using boss either, so the Luke Metal sticks around for another turn, and you can start getting to work on this Center Scorch VMAX. So yeah, he's not many attacks away anymore. He's got a lot of mileage out of the Zamazenta for sure.
Yeah, it was definitely what he needed once those Asians hit the bin. And you kind of have the debate between the 2 legendary Pokemon, but Zamazenta definitely coming out on the forefront in this particular match. And like you said, if it's able to just keep chipping away at this VMAX Pokemon, picking up those KOs, then that's going to be game in hand if he's able to obviously take those critical 3 prize cards. But Center Scorch still going to be trying to attach those energies. Got 2 on there at the moment. Whether there's going to be any more to be able to pull from, to be able to deal those big damaging attacks, we'll have to yet see. Disc Reload, of course, going to bring some more cards into the hand, but it looks like the deck is getting smaller and smaller by the moment as well, so that's something to really consider. Fire Crystal, of course, going to be drawing out those energies as well, going straight into the hand, and that's something Center Scorch wants to see. And the reset stamp certainly going to be interesting here, going to be really reducing both of these hand sizes. The hand sizes here going down to 3. I'm thinking of N there. I'm just getting all confused. Yeah. There's so much that's been crammed in this week. But bringing it down to the 3, Polka Doll there can give you, of course, that extra little bit of flexibility defensively. But I think Zamazenta and Mal Metal have kind of got themselves in the position they want to be in.
Yeah, so I think he's put himself into a position where if he has boss next turn, he wins the game, because the moment he's at 4 energies, you'll get a 5th energy on at the end of this attack turn. So then you'd be an attach boss away from the game, I believe, with the amount of damage already on the bench Luke Metal, taking into account all the reductions. So I think this is the best you can come up with. Obviously, oh, so you don't actually get the secondary effect of the Center Scorch. Okay, I actually didn't know that. It prevents all effects of the attack done to you, but I'm surprised it doesn't work on yourself. Okay, that's interesting. And it makes him in a way worse position, actually. He's going to need the stamp to be more powerful, because he's going to need 2 turns still to try and close this game.
Yeah,
be the selection of a Guz Hala by the looks of things. That's an interesting one.
Yeah, debating. And yeah, go on to it.
I think he's trying to find possibly like Power Plant for next turn, so there's not Silvally push potential. There's a Polka Doll coming down here, potentially. I don't know why you wouldn't put it down. seeing as though you're trying to play around reset stamp at this point as well. Another energy going on to the Zamazenta, possibly just so that you can pay retreat if ever you need to into the Dole to buy yourself some more time. And we are going to see the assault tackle here.
Yeah, no, just going straight onto the damage here, you know, playing very offensively these past couple of turns with this Zamazenta, just trying to pick up all the KO that it can. But again, I kind of agree with you there, Joe. I would have put the Poker Doll down just onto the bench just so it's there and you don't accidentally sort of lose it with a stamp or anything like that. But the power plant would be really good to try and get that into play just to stop this kind of extra maneuverability that Centiskorch team's able to have with that Giant Hearth in play.
Yeah, I guess by them not putting the Doll down, they're valuing it more as just a discard fodder for the Guzhala or the Malolana potentially next turn, which is certainly reasonable, but there's still fear of reset stamp. We do see the Welder come on to the Centiskorch, and we do see the Great Catcher is going to be enough. He plays one Great Catcher in his deck. And we see the well played 6 energies on that Senti, going to be enough even with the 7 energy coming on now, making sure that he can get over the line. Deals 260. There was already some damage on there, but gets the job done in the end. Wow, that's pretty impressive.
Yeah, that was a very powered up Centiskorch. And I love that game too. There were a lot of toing and throwing. You know, the Centiskorch came out very early on in that game, picking up the critical KOs against the Zacian. And the Melmetal and Zamazenta did have quite a big mountain to climb, but they were able to put it back into a situation where they had that kind of solid win condition. They're being able to pick up against, picking up enough damage and protecting themselves with those energies as well, just reducing that weakness. But Centiskorch able to come right back into it, find all those energies again, even though they'd all hit the discard, and pick up that solid KO. So very, very critical game there. Lots of toing and throwing, but certainly a bit of an insightful match. And, you know, the GX attack broke you, Joe. You had to go away and come back. It was that good.
Yeah, I mean, it's exactly what you need, and it's something that you lean into massively as the Luke Metal build. It's, you know, vital for you to not only make your guys a bit more bulky, but you just take away a big threat. And Centiskorch is probably one of the biggest threats in the game when it has that many energies attached to it, because you just start announcing and you're just slapping through everything in front of you, weakness or no. So yeah, impressive to try and work that angle where you just try and leave Zamazenta and just leave him and leave him and leave him and eventually get through Centiskorch. And really the Senti player was really just on their last legs. They had used their last crystal and it was just their last Great Catcher or their only Great Catcher to be able to pick up that Luke Metal. And possibly, you know, they could have lost the following turn if maybe like a Zacian was powered up all in one go with sources and stuff. So it was actually down to the wire. You can see this combination of the goggles, the GX attack, the Zamazentas, and the coatings, the newest edition from Vivid Voltage, even push, you know, like the biggest, scariest fire type matchup into winnable range for you. Like, obviously, you ended up losing this best of 3 in this case, but this best of 3 was really close.
Oh yeah, it was certainly brought things into a much more even playing field, having that energy in play. Just was so pivotal being able to get onto that Pokemon, remove the weakness, and just give yourself a little bit more of an even battlefield, I suppose you could say, in that situation. But really great to see, like you said, having that Fire Crystal just in at the end, exactly what you needed for play coming in clutch. But I was getting a little bit worried about the deck size towards the end there. It was looking pretty thin. So being able to make sure that you had that before any chance of kind of decking out just was perfectly played towards the end there of that game.
Yeah, and we saw a lot of value for the Sylvali GX as well. That's kind of like the new wave of Centiskorch that's only really popped up in like the last month or so. I think it was actually Philip Schultz and Pedro Torres, some Limitless players who have been making that, you know, in the spotlight and making it a really popular way to build the deck, giving yourself some stamp proofing, which is typically like an Achilles heel of the Centiskorch deck. So even then, when you weren't necessarily getting hit with stamps, you were just using it to calm dance and give yourself some extra cards here or there for extra welder usage. Definitely paid off at the end and gave yourself extra, you know, deck thinning towards that Great Catcher, which was, at the end of the day, the only win condition left for the Centiskorch player.
Yeah, exactly. And I think as well, having that Giant Hearth out in play for so long really was sort of really well played there for the Centiskorch player, and having that power plant would have been great to come in. And like you've just sort of championed the abilities there of Sylvali and how useful it is. Having that power point in play obviously completely shuts that down, stops your opponent from being able to regain all those cards in their hand. So it would have been maybe better for the Melmetal team if they were able to get sort of a power plant into play just to kind of shut down that flexibility on their opponent's side. But either way, tremendously well played. I honestly didn't think they were going to be able to come back into that, and they got it so close towards the end. It was masterful for me to be able to observe that. It was pretty cool.
Yeah, it's one of those things where you go back to your friend and say, yeah, I just lost to Center Scorch. I'm playing Luke Metal. It's how it goes. Sometimes I just run into the bad matchup, but it's actually closer than you think. It's not that like complete steamroll. Like it can be sometimes, but when you are playing the coatings, when you are playing those outs, you actually bring it close and make it a long best of 3 series, So it's a bad beat, but it's a matchup that is out there in the field, one of the most popular decks throughout Vivid Voltage. And you found a way to bring it close. And when you can even bring the fire matchups close, then, is there any reason to not be playing Luke Metal right now? Not so much, right?
Yeah, exactly. You've got kind of a plan B. You've got a cover and a way to go into that matchup without having to kind of go, oh, all right, well, GG. You've got a strategy you can bring into it. So yeah, really well played. I can't wait to see what else happens in the competition. But it is going to be the end of Team Ginger on the mic. Big thank you to Limitless, of course, for inviting me up as a VG caster to come and show off my new knowledge that I learned from Joe in TCG. So hopefully, even with all the errors and the ramblings, it has been entertaining for you guys. But we will be passing over to another professional when we rejoin. So end of Team Ginger, but not end of the stream. So please make sure to stay around and rejoin us after the break.